There's a man who's been walking around the Santa Fe Plaza with, as I said, a gun on his hip, allegedly harassing minority vendors and others he comes across. Mayor Alan Weber's office has received many complaints and comments, and Leah Cantor, the Santa Fe Reporter, writes that the mayor says, quote, "The city is doing everything in its power to protect public safety while not infringing on the constitutional rights of individuals to express free speech or bear arms," end quote. Here to discuss this issue and others, I'm joined at the table by former state representative and line regular Daniel Foley. Adrian Carver's here. He's executive director of Equality New Mexico. Familiar face we're always glad to see. Former state senator Dede Feldman is with us. And another former state senator, Diane Snyder. Always good to have you here as well, Diane. Now, welcome to all. Adrian, let me read something to you. State law allows for open carry. We know this. So there's nothing to be done on the Second Amendment wise, but let's put some context here. I want to read something to you here. Think back to Santa Fe's Entrada a couple of years ago, right? When the police directed protesters to a designated, quote, free speech zones, and they were waving signs. This man has a gun, right? And he's reportedly threatening people, and, shouldn't they deal with this guy in the same way? Do you see my question here? Is there a protected zone we could establish here at the Santa Fe Plaza and have this? Why do protesters at Entrada have to be squirreled away somewhere, but this man's free speech can go all over the place? What's the difference here?
Look, so I've encountered this person at Santa Fe.
Oh, you have?
And when I saw the situation, I was worried about my employees that were there, working to get the word out about the Equality in New Mexico and the work that we do.
Right.
And this man is walking around with a gun, strapped to the side of his belt, wearing his Trump, his red hat, and that's terrorism. It is in the world that we live in today. Mm-hmm. This guy is a mascot for the hate and the rhetoric that the Trump administration is pushing out all across the country. There's been an uptick in hate crimes. Mm-hmm. There was a recent poll that said 25% of people are changing their habits when they're in public because of the threat of mass shootings. And this is a guy that's walking around a pride celebration, a place that is all about diversity and inclusion and tolerance, mm-hmm. Yelling at people who have experienced some of the most harmful discrimination that they have just because of who they are.
Mm-hmm. Did you file a complaint about this? I'm curious. Did you talk to any authorities about
this?
No,
we didn't have an interaction, but I was watching him, going from booth to booth,
wow.
harassing people, and in this world that we live in, this guy, he's racist. He's a mascot for what's happening on the national level. He's emboldened mm-hmm. by these people, white nationalists, that are running our country. And
let me kind of bring it back local. I hear your point. It's part of a bigger thing that's going on around here. But Senator Snyder, the idea that, again, we're butting up different kinds of freedoms here: the freedom to bear arms, the freedom to protect oneself, certainly. But don't these folks have freedom, these vendors, from being harassed? Where does this middle part?
That's not the law, Gene. The mm-hmm. law gives the first two freedoms, credibility and legitimacy.
Okay.
There is no law that says you can't harass somebody except when you go into the designated race, religion, sex, and
Has he not crossed that line?
No,
by
he
asking
hasn't.
people for their papers, by
No.
threatening to shoot people, questioning their questions of origin, the countries of origin?
No, that is his free speech to ask. Is it rude? Is it frightening? Is it all of those things? Mm-hmm. Yes, but he hasn't broken the law. And as long as he doesn't,
right.
then he should be allowed. Now, I don't mind the idea. I kind of like the idea of the free speech zone.
Sure.
If we made that a consistent policy everywhere. Mm-hmm. But he's not broken the law. Mm-hmm. And nobody has filed a complaint.
I believe there, not that it's huge, we're not talking felonies here, but there were a couple of misdemeanors he has clearly broken.
Right, but misdemeanors
he is clearly broken.
But misdemeanors are one thing.
But I hear you, but I hear that side of the argument. I was swinging to a senator over here. This idea that this man has done nothing yet. Where does fear and intimidation fit into this equation? That can't be nothing in this world, right?
Intimidation, and especially when you're packing a gun, which is perfectly legal,
sure.
is is not covered under free speech. It is not legal to cry fire in a crowded theater. And this man, in this particular climate, is sounding the alarm. And I think that, you know, we have had this mantra after every terrorist attacks. You know, you see something, say something. So people are obliged to file a complaint against this person if they haven't done it. But, you know, we're now like detaining people because they might shoot up a school.
Right.
Here's a man actually threatening people
Right.
in a public space.
That's right.
And he is not protected, I don't believe. But, you know, and isn't this a red flag warning? Isn't
That was
this
my
a
next question.
case for a
Right.
red flag warning? I mean,
Can I swing that to Dan?
Yeah.
May I, just to get him in here. Is this enough of a red flag warning for you? When you got this man has been caught on videotape threatening one of the most beloved vendors on Santa Fe Plaza that mess with me and I'll shoot you. Shouldn't that be enough to have some kind of action of some part? I'm not saying you got to drag the guy in chains, but is that enough to have Santa Fe Police Department say, hey, you know?
So why haven't they?
I don't know.
That's a
my
question for
to
them.
you. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not the Santa Fe Police Department, Gene.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm
in
asking
order
for
to have a
your opinion.
threat,
All right, that's fine, but
in
I'm
order to have a
asking for your
threat,
opinion
in order to
about
have a
what?
legal, credible threat, you have to have the threat and you have to have the ability to carry out the threat. Clearly, him being there saying he's going to kill somebody with a gun on his hip, he has the ability to carry out a threat. Something should be done about that.
Right.
I think when we start saying, look, he's walking around in a Trump shirt and a Trump hat, and you know, just the fact that he's got the hat and the fact that he's got a gun on his hip, I mean, I think that's where the problem occurs. This guy clearly has no business threatening people. I don't care who you are. I don't care what side you are. I mean, I'm just telling you right now, guy gets in my face, he's getting knocked out. Period, end of story. I mean, gets in my face, wants to tell me something, I'd knock him out. If he went after my wife or kids, I'd knock him out. All right?
Even if he had a gun.
Even if he had a gun, I'd knock his ass out. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. And, you know, but at the same time, we have all this outrage against this guy, and we've got all these other organizations in this state and in this country that are the Antifa guys, the people that are dragging people out of buses, beating people,
Okay, I
spitting
wanna
on
bring
them.
it back local.
Well, no,
Let's-
I know you want to bring it back local,
But
but
I'm gonna- we're gonna
this
stick to Santa Fe here.
Gene,
Hang on, hang on.
Antifa's in Santa Fe. They've been up there as well. They've been in Albuquerque as well, Gene.
I hear you.
So if you're going, all I'm saying is if you're going to have this righteous indignation against this guy, which is wrong, which I'm angry about, why are we not having the same righteous indignation about the other guys?
Okay.
When someone would, fine.
Can
Diane,
I-
let me get back to you on that. Where's the middle ground here? Is there a possibility? I mean, because otherwise we could have a lot of people walking around strapped at the hip. If we wanted to, we could
You
have
can.
50 people.
That's the law.
On the plaza. Oh, everyone's hawking each other. Everyone's kind of, you know, that could easily escalate to that point here on Santa Fe.
It could, but then you get into another discussion, and it's how much of our rights are we going to give up to protect ourselves?
Right.
That's a totally different discussion, and it's just like the TSA and getting on, and how much we are reviewed, and how much we is that fair? Is that right for all of us who are non-threatening? You know.
I hear you guys with these broad examples.
Right,
we're talking about one man on Santa Fe Plaza.
I know.
Okay, but Gene, if you want to talk about the one man at Santa Fe Plaza,
You know.
he's had multiple interactions, which I think I've been very clear from the start of this. I'm not endorsing what this guy does, okay? But on the same note, what do you want to do, Gene? There's been multiple interactions with this guy. He has not pulled the gun on anybody.
Yes.
Right, yeah. So Gene, I mean, that's an unbelievable statement by you. He hasn't done it yet. Well, that person walking down the street hasn't committed a crime yet. That
Well,
person doing this hasn't
but-
committed this
no,
yet.
No,
I
no,
mean,
there's
we
a
have
big
rules that are in
Brings us
place.
back to what is the purpose of the red flag laws,
Yeah,
guys?
can I comment?
What do you,
on
what do you
that?
mean is the
getting here.
okay? So the police
There
in
has
Santa
to
Fe.
be a
the police aren't doing
percentage of
anything.
yet. You have to
So
think about
clearly,
it.
so
have to
either
think
you got
about
two
it.
choices. Either the mayor of Santa Fe, who
Right.
last time I checked is no bastion of conservatism. Maybe I'm wrong. The police department in Santa Fe. Clearly, this is not news to them.
Right.
So clearly, somebody has raised a question. Somebody has looked into this guy. This guy clearly doesn't pose a threat, according to the police or the mayor. Because I can assure you, a guy walking around in a Trump hat and a Trump shirt and a gun, threatening people on Santa Fe Plaza. If the mayor of Santa Fe could hammer that guy, if the progressive Democrats could arrest that guy, they wouldn't admit it.
No,
finish-
they have respect for
up the-
individual rights as well.
You do it in 20 seconds.
And my point is back to the red flag warning. we are detaining people now who threaten to shoot up schools, young people and others. So the red flag warning also is to try to get these people some help. If they are mentally ill, they need some help. Usually in a red flag warning, it's the family that sounds the alarm. Well, I wonder, what about the family of this guy?
Right.
Have they been contacted? If this is a typical street person who's been out there harassing parades.
I just find it hard to believe that the people haven't looked into this guy yet.
They have. I'm sure they have.
So you're just saying that they've looked into it. Whatever the result is, but you want them to do more.
The counties and municipalities are hamstrung. They aren't allowed to pass and enact laws that give them more freedom.
Now, one thing I will add is Mayor Weber has also said he wants to talk to the governor's office about changing some of these gun laws and making them more in local control.
Right.
That's interesting. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks when that gets going. So, have to stop that there. After a quick break, we're talking native priorities here in New Mexico.